Today I want to show you a classic Marvin Glider. These were produced around 1987 to 2011. I want to show you how to remove the active sash, stationary sash, the sill track, how to replace the sill track, and some water management. There is some maintenance that has to be done with these. How to replace some weather stripping, possibly how to reglaze the window. And this is kind of a unique situation for us here in Southern California. This one actually has a storm combo unit, so we'll take a look at that. So let's get to it. To start, let me show you one of the most basic things, how to remove the stationary sash. And that's relatively simple. You just make sure that the window is unlocked, and you have to open it all the way past this little wood block here. And once you do that, then you can just take the window or the sash, lift straight up, pull it towards you, and set it to the side. We just open it past this little part here, and then we can lift it straight up and then straight down. So before we go ahead and remove the stationary sash, since this has a storm window, we have to remove the storm window so we can get that removed. And we do that just by unscrewing it from the face here. Okay, we'll go ahead and remove these screws. Okay, we'll go ahead and remove the storm window. It just sits in there, and just take it out just like that. We'll set it to the side. Okay, now that we got the storm window removed, we can go ahead and start removing some components to get this out. Okay, we're now looking at the top of the window, and there's a couple screws here. And sometimes if these are wide, you'll have 3 of them, but on this one we only have 2. We'll go ahead and take those out. Sometimes these will stick. Obviously this one has been taken off a few times, but if you have to, you can take a putty knife in here to help assist this wood off of here like that. So next we can remove this cover here. Sometimes you can slide it out, or if you have one that's stubborn, you can just pull it up just like that. And that's going to expose you to some screws. And this, we'll go ahead and slide that out. And this would be a good time to talk about some water management. It is normal for a gliding window to get some water in between these two. And sometimes people don't like to see water sitting on here. I have in the past drilled a little hole here and then a little hole back here. So any water that does get on top of here could actually drain out of here. But if you do that, keep in mind if you're in a really wind-driven area, you could get air infiltration and your window can whistle. So the next thing to do would be to remove this cover. And we do that by taking a utility knife, and you're going to have, if it's been painted or stained, go along these edges here, like this. Okay, and then once you do that, these are actually nailed on. So in order to get these off, you're going to have to find this gap that's between the frame and this stop here. And then you can put this in here, and you can pull this off. And of course, this has been removed several times, so I made it look way easier than what it is. But you get the idea. Once you get that off, then any remaining nails that are in here or that are in the frame, just take your nail pullers and pull those off. Just be gentle when removing this, because you got to reuse it. And that also will expose us to the brackets. So we can go ahead and take the screws off of this. And I do recommend removing all 4 screws instead of just the 2, because sometimes when you put a new sash in there, this bracket could be a little bit in the way. So let's go ahead and do that. And also be mindful not to damage your wood here. Obviously you can see here that's been done a few times. Now it's time to remove all these screws, and they are very short. Okay, now that we have all these screws removed, I suggest taking a putty knife. Sometimes there's some sealant that's in here. I've actually even had to take a flat bar to try to get it in there to get that out. Okay, and we can go ahead and slide this over, just like that. And we can go ahead and slide it the rest of the way. Be mindful not to scratch the sill of your window. Kick the bottom out and take the sash out this way. Now I'd like to show you how to replace this track. But before I do, I want to talk about some water management. Sometimes these tracks, there'll be a little gap between the frame and this track. So If that happens, you're going to want to put some sealant, and even when you replace this with a new one, you're going to want to put some sealant along here. These normally come with some gasket material that these go against, but I would recommend putting some sealant around there. And another reason for doing that, if you have the standard screen like this one, as you can see, the screen is touching the bottom of this frame. And what can happen is when you get that wind-driven rain, this can fill up with water. And that's a lot of water from the top of here to here that can actually force its way into your house. So another thing you can do for water management is with this screen, put a little button or a little shim under here so this water could shed off of this a little easier and you don't have standing water in there. Since I got to reuse this, and this is my only one, I'm going to be a little careful with it. But to take this off, you just basically get this little lip here to clear that wood lip like that. And normally I just take a pair of pliers and you could just pull it toward you like that. So let's see if we can do that without doing any damage here. And just work your way down, just like that. We can go ahead and put a putty knife under here as well. Hopefully you can see my hand's in the way. Just like that, and just work your way all the way down. Be very mindful not to break this Sill liner when taking this off. So now you can take this, and we're going to go this way with it. So we're continuing to go like this and push this way. Okay, we remove this from the sill of our window. This little area here goes under here. This is actually fiberglass because it has to be a thermal break. If this were aluminum clad, you would have ice that would form in the side of your window. So this is actually fiberglass. The rest is aluminum clad. And this little notch here goes underneath here. So when you get your replacement one, you just have to make sure, in the same way we took it off, that you get this, which I already cracked, underneath there. So that goes in there like that. And then we're going to go ahead and roll this in and push it all the way down. Now we can take this modified stair tool. They use this for carpet, for doing stairs. I modified it, cut it, sanded it, just to replace these sills. So we're going to go ahead and place that in there like that. And I'm going to take a hammer and we're going to make sure that we're going this way with it so it's seated all the way down. And now there's a kerf and barb under there. We can go ahead and just go down just like this. And get that tucked in there good. Okay. Now that you got your new track on there, make sure you put some of that sealant all the way around here like I was talking about earlier. Very important. So we have a good, nice, tight seal there. And we can go ahead and start putting the window back together. We'll go ahead and put our sash back in. And as you can see, there's a little clip up here that goes in this little groove there. And it goes in there just like that. And then we can slide it in there. So just make sure that's in there just like that. So this piece that we took off earlier, that was over here, if I have a window that's got a real bad install, I'll actually separate this clad from this wood, and I'll force this wood to make sure it's evenly spaced at the top and bottom. We'll go ahead and put the screws back in the brackets here. Before you put these screws back in here, I would highly recommend that you put some sealant and squirt them in each one of those holes, because you don't want any water coming in there at all. Since this is my display, we're pretending that there's already sealant in there. And you don't have to use the same holes. If you have to move a hole over to put a screw for it to grab, go ahead and these are self-tapping screws, but definitely put some sealant in the previous hole as well. Okay. Now I want to talk about some more water management. So since we've done this and we broke the seal, definitely put some sealant, usually 4 to 6 inches up. So put some sealant in between here and along here and along this whole edge, just like the other side, because you want to make sure there's no water that's going to come in over this track and then come inside. Very important. Okay, now we can go ahead and put this piece back in, just like this. And then go ahead and take your nailer and just put some nails in it. If you want to use little screws, you can. And now we can go ahead and take this piece and we'll slide it in. Okay, this piece is pretty flexible, so you can actually start it in here like this, and you can bend it just like that and slide it all the way down. Make sure your little dust block is there to make a continuous seal between this weather stripping here and here. Okay, I'm going to make sure that these two pieces are together. I'm going to go ahead and start the screw here. Be mindful, especially if you got a white unit, when putting these back in, sometimes the aluminum here can scratch the side. If that happens, you can take Mr. Clean's magic eraser and clean those marks off. So basically that just fits in there just like this. We'll go ahead and tighten those screws, just like that. As promised, we'll talk about weather stripping replacement. These come out relatively easy. Just take a putty knife behind it and you can help assist that out. We use the kerf and barb system, meaning there's a kerf in this frame here and there's a connecting barb here, so this just pulls out. If you need to replace this other piece of weather stripping here, this comes out as well. You do not want to have any paint on this weather stripping or you will not be able to open your windows. So, as you saw, I slid that out of the way just to make it a little easier. That comes out relatively easy as well. And just cut the new ones to fit. Just push them on there just like that. Slide that back in there. Sometimes to replace this weather stripping, you just take a flat bar behind this weather stripping. It may break or tear if it's really old. And we'll just pop it off just like that. And as you can see, there is a kerf here as well, and there is a connecting barb here. And again, just replace this as you would the other side. Cut it to fit and just push it in there. And then take some furniture polish, like Pledge, spray it on a paper towel, and wipe all this down for it to slide better. I want to show you how to remove these glazing stops. So if you have to replace your glass, or if you have the vinyl glazing stop, how to remove it. Now, if these are vinyl, they're going to be a lot more challenging for you because they're more likely going to be very brittle. So, to get these off, we need to protect our glass. So I'm going to go ahead and use my sharpened putty knife in there, and then I'm going to go ahead and gently pry up on this. And this one will be the most challenging because there is a groove on here that it catches on. The other ones will be a lot easier. I don't want to show you to do the hardest ones first. There we go. Got it started. And we need to be, if we're going to reuse these metal ones, we need to be careful not to put too much of a bend on it. So we'll just work our way all the way down. We can go ahead and remove the top and bottom stops. Just like that. And now we can remove this stop. So this one you're going to have to get it tucked under this here to get that started, and then you're going to have to protect your glass. And just constant, steady pressure, because you don't want to break your glass. If you just try to force it, you can snap this vinyl or you can snap your glass and you'll have a real bad day. Okay. Now that we have that off, now is an opportunity for me to talk about the, instead of this metal cap, the vinyl ones that are color matched. Now, this kerf here and this barb that it fits into, when you try to replace these, a lot of chunks could be left in here. So you're gonna have to dig these out. Unfortunately, it's very time consuming, but if you dig all that out and then you get the new ones from your dealer, you can go ahead and push those back in and it'll look like brand new. Now I've turned this over to the other side. If we want to replace the glass, now you take one of these putty knives that's been rounded, because if you use a square one like this and you try to get that square in there, when you're cutting this sealant, this square will dig into the wood and it's going to be very difficult for you. So with all those stops removed, if you take this between the glass and the wood and you just keep working your way all the way across, if this is annealed glass, meaning it's not tempered, be prepared for your glass to break or snap. You may even want to take some glass tape or packing tape, that clear tape, and just tape all of the glass. That way if it breaks, it stays together and safer for you. Of course, use all proper safety gear, glasses in hand. But I'm not actually doing it, I just want to give you the idea. So if you run your putty knife between the wood and the glass all the way around and you go deep like this, you're going to cut the sealant all the way around here. Then your glass could come out. And then once that happens, you can flip it back over. Of course, we're pretending here because this is our display and I don't want to ruin it here. So with the glass removed by cutting that sealant, any sealant that's on the wood, just take a chisel or sharpened chisel or something like this, and on the wood, scrape off all of this sealant that's there. It doesn't have to be perfectly clean on the wood. And then once you get that cleaned up, then you can take some Dow 1199 in beige or Dow 791, put a bead of sealant on the wood, take your new glass, press it in there, and then just reverse the process. We're pretended that we went ahead and replaced our glass. We'll go ahead and put our stops back on here. Go ahead and put some sealant at these corners here. Squish that sealant in there. Just push that all the way in there. Sometimes you may have to make sure that's seated properly. And then a little sealant there, and just push these on. So that little lip goes in there like that. There you go, just like brand new. Before you install this, I would highly recommend that you turn this sash upside down to expose this bottom rail slide insert. If there's any paint or dirt, make sure all that gets scraped off. And then also I would highly recommend that you take some pledge, spray it on a paper towel, use a whole bunch on there, and then fold it and put it in there. And if this isn't painted, you don't want to do this until after it's been painted or stained. Wipe this down, this will help it slide a lot better. And then do the window. So it slides on the track like this. Make sure this little fin goes down this way. That's how it goes when you put the sash in it. So we're wiping the entire track down. All this weather stripping. This weather stripping over here. And maybe the top, wherever it touches or moves or slides on. When we install the sash, we need to make sure that it goes over this flap, because if this flap is up like this, it's not going to slide well at all. So we'll lift it up. And then again, make sure that it goes on there like that, just like that. So we'll go ahead and just put it back up in there, just like this. Beautiful. So we'll go ahead and install this storm window. And some people ask why you would want something like this. You would actually want something like this if you had this window in an area that exceeded its design pressure rating, say on a cliff, ocean front, something where you're getting pounded with a lot of wind and rain. This will help with that, and plus it'll give you a little bit better insulating value as well. Okay, let's go ahead and put our storm window up, making sure the top's done first. And it sits in there, and obviously make sure where the side where the screen is the side where your window opens. And we'll go ahead and just screw it all the way around. Okay, now that we have this on, let's try it out. Okay, you can open your window, and if you move this latch up right here on the bottom, there's one at the top, that allows you to slide that open. Also, by doing this on the top and bottom and holding them, you can pull this panel out and actually remove it completely. Okay, as you saw, these two clips, just hold them. You can actually take this panel, you can take it out and set it to the side. And then if you want to remove the screen, you do the same thing with the two latches. Just grab them. And it's got these little pins that go into a track that's on the top and bottom. And then you can take it out. And you can just keep the screen in or put the energy panel in, whatever configuration you want. Okay, to put these back in, see this little pin here? There's one on the top and the bottom that goes in that track right there. It just goes in an angle. And then we slide it all the way in. Again, it's the bottom, the little pin goes in the track. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. Let's get it started. You're putting it in an angle. Slide it on in there. Just like that. Pretty neat, huh? Well, that's about everything I could think of on a Marvin Glider to show you. I hope you found this video informative, and if you did, please consider subscribing by hitting the button below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.